everyone, and welcome to the Health Warrior Summit here in 2014. I am Sarah Olson, and I'm going to be your host throughout this whole experience. I'm so excited for all of you to be here and share on these amazing secrets that are sure to help you achieve optimal health, eliminate nutritional and environmental toxins from your life, and overall to live as a warrior for your own health and wellness. Here with me today is Marcie Peters. Hi, Marcie.
Hi.
Thanks for joining us today.
You're so welcome.
Thank you. Marcie is the founder and the visionary of the Health and Happiness Guide and Transform Your Health World Summit. She is so passionate about working with people that have chronic illness, and she's going to tell us here in a second how she was able to fight her own chronic illness and heal her own body. So I am going to turn it over and let her get started and tell us her story and what it means for her to be a warrior for her health.
Hi, Sarah. Thanks
Hi.
for having me. This is a fabulous event, so I really appreciate the chance to talk to people about health and becoming a warrior for my own health and how I've helped others as well. So I'll start with my story. So it's a long one. It started 18 years ago, and I got very sick, and I was in my early 20s, and I just didn't know what was going on. Things kind of went haywire very quickly. I went from being relatively healthy, not a lot of health concerns, just the general things, to basically being in bed and able to work and take care of myself, and it got very bad very quickly. So I, of course, went to various doctors, doctor after doctor, and they didn't have answers for me. They wanted to basically just put me on medications, which unfortunately, does still tend to happen with Western medicine doctors who, are traditionally trained. So I did go down that path, where I was trying antidepressants, because first they said it was all in my head, and then later on pain medication and muscle relaxants and sleep medication. So I gave that all a shot for years, actually, and it didn't work. Ultimately, I had to really look outside the box and find other ways and other things and other philosophies that could help me and ultimately heal myself, which I am happy to say that I've been able to do. So that's turned into a passion for health and wellness and really helping other people so they don't have to suffer like I did, and certainly not for as long as I did.
Absolutely. You said it was it took you a long time to get to where you are. What was kind of your turning point? What was the moment where you thought, I have to do something different?
Well, there was a turning point. There was a distinct point where, I was in bed. I'd been in bed for weeks and was really depressed and was really wondering, do I even want to go on? Is it even worth it? And I actually had to make a decision to either not go on or really turn things around, whatever that takes. And for a long time, I actually wasn't willing to make the lifestyle and dietary changes that really is necessary, especially in a chronic illness situation. Mm-hmm. And at that point, I said, you know what, I'm going to do whatever I need to do. I'm going to give up whatever foods I need to give up and make those changes. And I don't know what those are at this point, but I'm going to find them. I'm going to find the answers and figure this thing out, because this is not how my life was supposed to go. This is not how anyone, should have to be. And of course, I learned that it is reversible. These things that doctors actually said were not reversible, they really are, almost entirely through diet modification and lifestyle changes. And I know we'll get into those specifically, but so one of the messages that I like to give to people is there is absolutely hope, no matter how bad your situation seems, and mine seemed pretty dire. There's always hope, and there's always a way to turn things around. And if nothing else, there's always a way to look at things differently. And that in and of itself will actually change things.
Yeah, we can kind of get into more of this as we go, but one of my visions for this summit is to really try to share things for people that are in all different parts of their path, of their journey for wellness, excuse me, whether they're just beginning or they're like you and somebody who's figured it out and they're thinking, okay, what's the next step for me? So it's really, you're such a great example, especially to get this whole summit kind of kicked off here at the beginning. I appreciate that. In your vision and in your mind, how do you help others be warriors for their own health?
Well, so there's a lot that goes into it, but the first thing I like to start with people is really looking at mindset, really looking at how do you regard yourself, and really cultivating that self-love and acceptance that's completely unconditional, that has a lot of compassion and a lot of self-care. And so a lot of times when people come to me, they know that they're going to have to make dietary changes. And there's always two ways to look at doing that. There's the way of deprivation and forcefulness, and, I must do this. And there, on the other hand, there's a way of looking at it like, no, this is a gift I'm giving to myself. This is a way that I can heal, and I'm going to give myself the gift of the time and healing that I need. And this won't be forever, to have a somewhat strict way of dealing with myself, but it is, it is something that I need, and I love and honor and cherish myself enough that I will absolutely do that for myself as long as I need to. And it might be a few months, it might be a few years, it actually did take me some time, and you see progression, you see improvements along the way. So it's not like you're waiting for a couple of years with nothing happening. But to really get to the point where you're having optimal, vibrant health, you wake up feeling amazing, you have energy all day, and you're really at a good, stable place where you have a strong body and consistent health. That does take a while, and especially if there are gut issues. Leaky gut is notorious for taking a long time to heal, and you really have to put that time and effort in. But the way you frame that and the way your paradigm is will make it really hard, or it will make it a beautiful journey and something that unfolds beautifully over time, and you just get better and better.
Yeah, I tell that to people all the time. You can't beat yourself up over their one mistake. It's a process. It's not going to happen overnight.
Yeah, so giving yourself that time and space, and just knowing that what you're working towards is bigger than just what you're eating on a day-to-day basis. So really, self-love and compassion is the root of all great health, I believe. So that's where I like to start with people.
That's wonderful. Yeah, we've from what I know about you as well, we all kind of, I think people who come here know that nutrition is a huge part of healthiness, but there's so much more to it than just eating good food. I mean, that's huge.
Yeah.
But it's also another process. Let's talk about, if you don't mind, kind of what you went through when you talked about chronic illness. And I know it had something to do with like metabolic syndrome and stuff. Would you mind kind of sharing what you went through so there are people that are maybe in a similar situation to you know that there's hope or know what they could do?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was actually at a place where my doctors said you're pre-diabetic, which is basically metabolic syndrome. It means that your blood sugar is not functioning correctly. Oftentimes you can be carrying extra weight. Your fasting glucose level is going to be too high. It's going to be over 100, and we actually want it under 90 most of the time because that's in the healing range, but definitely not over 100. And fasting glucose is actually something you can take on your own with a little machine, a really inexpensive $14 machine. And I have one myself. It's a fantastic tool. So, and then, there's certain other factors that would indicate prediabetes or metabolic syndrome. As a woman, you don't want your waist size to be over 35 inches, and as a man, 40 inches. So there's certain parameters, if your blood pressure is too high, if your LDLs are under 100, which is the good cholesterol, or if your HDL, or actually the LDL is the bad cholesterol, and then the HDL, you want to be over 45, and the LDL under 100. And you want your triglycerides to be over 100 as well. And there are other parameters like the A1C, which should be 5.2 to 5.6, and your insulin level needs to be at a certain point too. So I have my, and this is something that I was dealing with, like you mentioned as well, but I also have my clients look at all of these factors. And of course, diet modification is going to be the number one thing that affects prediabetes and can reverse that situation.
Absolutely. When you work with people and you help them change their diet, it's a process. How long on average, or what's the time that you meet somebody new and you start to work with them? How long does it usually take you to kind of start seeing some really good results?
Well, it depends on the person. Everyone's different. I have had people in 2 weeks. Recently, a client that I started working with 1 month ago, in 2 weeks, her symptoms went from, I have people rate them on a 1 to 10 scale so we can really see quantifiably what we're dealing with. Her rating for stomach pain, gas and bloating, fatigue, and these types of things was 7 to 9. Within 2 weeks, we had it down to 0 to 2.
That's incredible. Yeah.
Typical. I will say that she exactly followed the protocol that I gave her. She was very diligent. She absolutely never cheated, which is unusual. That's hard. That's a hard thing.
Very hard. Yeah.
You just have to have that type of personality that could do it. So, and it's okay if you can't do that. Sometimes, it really needs to be a process. Other clients, it will take 3 or 4 months. The thing is, you're going to get there. You will get there, and you just have to have faith in that. And sometimes that does mean taking 2 steps forward and 1 step back, 1 step forward and 2 steps back. And that's okay. That really is part of the process. I went through that myself. And sometimes, I still try stuff out and it doesn't work, and I had a little step back, and that's okay. My health is really pretty good now, consistently good, but I still have moments where it's hard. The thing is that you want the trend to be forward, and as long as you're seeing improvements, it almost doesn't matter how long it takes to getting to optimal health, because you're still moving forward and you're still better than where you started. If you look back at where you started, you can actually see, wow, I may not be where I want to be, but I'm so much closer. I have so much more energy and life and vitality, and look at all the things that I'm doing, and I'm more capable and able, and it's amazing once you look back on it.
It is, and you're such a good example, just looking at how lively and vibrant you really are.
Thank you.
One of the things I'd like to make a theme throughout this whole process with all the speakers that we're going to see is, like we said earlier, everybody's on a different part of their path. And there may be some people here that are just starting and they think, oh my gosh, this is so overwhelming and I don't know where to go. I'm going to ask everybody this question, so you can be the first one. What is one thing for that person who is struggling to start? What's one suggestion you could give that person that they could do today?
Good question, Sarah. Thank you.
I should have warned you about that. I'm sorry.
Because there's so many things that are important, but I really think it does come back to how you regard yourself. Is everything you do during the day fueled by, I have to do this, I have to exercise, I have to eat right, I can't eat that? Or is it fueled by, no, I love and respect and honor myself enough that I'm going to make this good decision this time. And then with the next decision, I'm going to make a good decision that time. So taking each decision as a chance to reinforce that self-love and honoring and the gift of health and vitality that you're giving to yourself. So that's really the most important thing, because that's the fuel that will keep you going even when you feel like stopping. Other than that, I really do believe that cutting out gluten is absolutely imperative for almost everyone. Even if someone just has low-level digestive issues, it will start to affect you more and more. And I truly believe that this is one of the main causes of leaky gut, which will compromise your health completely. So there's other factors that can cause leaky gut, but gluten is a big one, and it's very inflammatory, and it's just honestly something that no one should be having. I've had it out of my diet for a few years now, and single-handedly, it's made the most effect in my health is cutting that out. And for me, I had to cut out dairy as well. And dairy is inflammatory for a lot of people. And I actually cut out a whole list of things. But those two individually, within weeks, I started seeing a difference in my energy and my joint inflammation and systemic pain. So I think if there's one takeaway, it's really consider taking those inflammatory foods out of your diet, gluten and dairy being the two biggest ones. So yeah, there's a lot you can do, but
it helps to clear your head even, so you can start to make those other choices to honor yourself.
Well, gluten has a narcotic-like influence on our brain. Gluten and dairy both do, and sugar too, of course. So they affect our brains like they're drugs, because they are. And that means that you eat a little and you want more. You eat more and you're still not satiated. And then you hold on to extra weight, and that can cause a myriad of other problems. Your blood sugar is unstable. And so really getting off that sugar roller coaster and that food roller coaster, the first step is taking those things that compel us to eat them out of our diets. And that's really hard, and that often does take some time and effort, and really some hand-holding is very helpful if you have an accountability buddy that you can do it with, you're doing it with your spouse, or you have a health coach that you love and trust. That's going to be really essential.
That's such a good segue into what I've been thinking, because you've made a couple comments that make me want to ask you this question. It's not easy. And it is definitely making a choice for you, for your health, for yourself. How do you help your clients and the people you work with to kind of get past the naysayers or the bad day or the negative, like, what do you think you're doing? And there's just so many people around us who either don't understand or don't realize that what we're saying is truthful.
Yes. I've encountered this time and time again. Great question, Sarah. So the antidote to that is decide that you're going to take a stand for your health, and you're going to do it in a way where you become a leader or a role model or an example for other people. You're doing it for yourself, but instead of feeling like an outcast at social events because you're not eating the chips and the cookies and whatever other garbage is out, do it as a way to take a stand for your own health. And in the process, you'll be looked at actually as a leader and as an inspiration, a source of inspiration in your own circles and in your own community. So again, mindset is so important. So it goes back to deprivation or compassion, taking stuff out or adding things in that nourish you. So again, if you have the mindset that this is something beautiful that I'm doing for myself, that I'm gifting myself, others will notice that you take good care of yourself. You don't have to say anything. You don't have to be talking about it all the time. But they'll just kind of take note. Oh, okay, she doesn't do the things that we do, and if you're looking at it as a positive thing, then they will too. So I really think that it does all come back to how you are regarding yourself and that mindset piece of it that's so important with health.
Yeah, and who knows who you'll touch along the way as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you could start changing other people's lives. You may not even know it, but they'll start looking at you as a source of hope and inspiration too.
Yeah. And I'm hoping that a lot of people can find that with all the different experts and speakers that we're having. We've talked a little bit about nutrition. We've talked a little bit about mind and self-care. I'd like to give you kind of the opportunity to share something that, maybe we didn't get into specifically enough, or if there's a focus that you prefer. I know you're really big on kind of mind-body connection.
Yeah, we have talked a lot about mind body, and I'll just throw in one more piece of that,
Okay.
and that is life purpose. Having a life purpose as something that feeds you, that's not food. So it's so important to be fed in various ways, and that's where balance comes in, right? We don't just ingest food, that's for our physical bodies. We also ingest life and the experience of life. So having a life purpose feeds our soul. And that's really important. And it may not be something that you do in your job or to make money. Maybe it's something you just really enjoy, and somehow it's a way of giving to yourself and giving back to the world. And it might be gardening and making beautiful flowers for people to enjoy. It might be a hobby. It might be something that, like for me, actually finding this passion and getting involved in this field and helping other people has actually made my health a lot better. And it was already starting to really improve with the dietary changes and the lifestyle, but it takes it to a new level.
You have to live it. Yeah, it's wonderful.
It's beautiful, and it's so rewarding when you're doing something that you feel really connected and in alignment with. So that's really important, and I want to throw that in there. And then I do want to get more into the dietary stuff, because that is actually the mindset fuels things, but the dietary stuff is the foundation. So it's really hard to enjoy and make good decisions if you're eating things like we talked about that compel you to eat them. So the inflammatory foods that I like to see people get off of completely, at least to start, would be gluten, dairy. Eggs actually cause a problem for a lot of people, and they don't even realize it, because eggs are a great protein source, especially if sourced from the right places. However, I like to have them taken out of the diet long enough for people to see if they are in fact affecting them. Also, corn and soy are big ones. They're genetically modified foods, and I really am not someone who wants to see anyone eating genetically modified foods. There's just a myriad of problems, and the least of which is leaky gut. I mean, they actually are implicated in leaky gut. And again, like we talked about, when you have leaky gut turns into autoimmunity turns into hormone and adrenal issues, and it starts you down this bad path to chronic illness. So obviously avoiding leaky gut is imperative, and genetically modified foods, of which corn and soy, almost all the crops in the United States are genetically modified. Plus, they're not nutritious. They're not really great foods. So I like to see people cut those out of their diet. And then, of course, artificial colors and sweeteners, they're chemicals. And I really advocate a whole foods, natural diet with as little processed foods as possible. In fact, on the occasion where you would have a processed food, I like to have everyone read the label. And if it's something you can't pronounce, or if it has more than 5 or 6 ingredients, just skip it. And this goes for the gluten-free foods, the gluten-free breads and cakes and cookies, and I'm just not a fan. I really would rather see someone just take those things completely out of their diet, at least temporarily. Maybe later we can do some gluten-free stuff. And then the other thing is grains. Grains cause a lot of digestive issues for people, and that even includes the gluten-free grains, which are hard to digest. All the grains are. So for the short term, again, the gift of healing, during that time, I really love for people to take the grains out of their diet completely. And then later we can add in some wild rice or some quinoa, things like that, in smaller quantities. But so, the best thing to do is really do this elimination diet that I'm talking about. Now, not everyone is down with that, and that's okay too. There's ways to just make health upgrades. So you have generally two types of people. You have someone who does very well with black and white, who needs boundaries, who needs to know this is not what I can eat, this is what I can eat. And so we do it that way, and we do the elimination diet. It's very effective. And then for other people, if that doesn't work, totally fine. Then we're going to start making small health upgrades and make better choices. Mm-hmm. So let's replace the milk with coconut milk or with almond milk or hemp milk or something that is a definite health upgrade. And let's do these types of things that ultimately will have your diet really cleaned up. And really making better choices, but it takes longer.
It does. It does. I think you could probably say that that's the way I've lived through most of my processes, the small upgrades, and it does take longer.
Yeah, and that really does work because over time you really go from one place to a completely different place. But if you're tied into the results, emotionally tied into the results, it won't happen as quickly, so you may not have as much motivation. So with the elimination diet, actually within 2 weeks, you're going to start to see major changes, and it's really exciting. But I don't want to set people up for failure either. If it's not something that's sustainable for them, then let's not take that approach.
And it's kind of one of those things too, where in a lot of cases you'll see a tipping point. So you make little, and then all of a sudden they're like, okay, I'm ready. Let's do the elimination. And it's great advice. Great advice.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's where the personally working with someone and customizing their plan and what's right for them really comes in. So the dietary changes are absolutely important. And then drinking half your body weight in ounces. I know everyone's drilled that into people's heads by now, but I cannot neglect bringing that up. It is really important. It also helps with satiation, so you don't overeat. Oftentimes, the signals we get from our body for dehydration are the same signals as when we feel hunger. So we feel hungry, but it might be dehydration. So keeping that water supply going is really important in terms of not overeating. And then, of course, just flushing things through. I like to start the day out with 16 to 24 ounces of water with fresh lemon, and I do that every morning. And it really sets you up great for the day. Breakfast, you can make better choices when you're hydrated and not getting those signals from your body. So,
absolutely. That's amazing. I mean, if somebody could listen to this and have a really good idea of where to start even on their own. That's wonderful. But I think one thing you pointed out that is really important is when this is overwhelming, there are so many out there that can help you through it. And finding that right person, that person you connect with is so important. And it's one of the reasons we do things like this, is so hopefully people can find that one person they connect with.
It really makes a difference. I know a lot of people have made some great changes on their own, and I absolutely believe in that. I've done a lot of it myself too, but also having those health coaches. I've had, some really instrumental health coaches myself. It really does make a difference. It really does keep you accountable, and especially if you're falling back into old habits. You do it for a while and then it just gets boring, it gets tedious, it gets to start feeling like work, it's not exciting anymore, you're not seeing as many changes, and you start this slide back into your old habits. That's where having someone who's standing by your side, who has been through it, has helped other people through it, and can help you through it, really does make a difference and keep you on track. And I like to see my clients work with me or with someone like me for at least 6 months to really establish those habits so that there's not this backslide, because the worst possible thing you can do is lose all of the momentum you've gained, gain the weight back, and then you start feeling hopeless, and I call it a stress cycle, or this this stress loop where you're just stuck in it. You make some progress and then you slide back, and you might make a little progress, but usually the backslides are even worse. And you start feeling emotionally and mentally like, I can't do this. I don't have the self-control. I don't have the willpower. Um, and having an advocate really does help take you out of that cycle.
Yeah.
I have a client who I've worked with recently who, for years, actually her whole life, she's been overweight since high school. And she's in her mid-30s and could not get out of that stress cycle, couldn't stop eating foods that she knew she shouldn't eat, that actually she was, clear on the fact that they were not helping and they were keeping her in poor health, and she couldn't stop. And so working with her, it's changed everything. It's been, she said it's the first year she didn't binge over the holidays, and, just all these amazing, and the weight loss it just happens. But what I love even more is she has energy. She feels good. She's not in pain all the time. She loves herself more. She's been given permission on a regular basis from an outside source to take care of herself, that it's okay, it's not selfish, that, it's actually really important. And getting that positive affirmation again and again from someone outside of her own mind has really changed her life. And she'll never backslide back into that.
That's amazing. And it's just, I said this a couple times, you're just such an amazing example to have for the kickoff of the summit, because you truly do, practice what you preach, and you can tell just by watching you and listening to that you're happy and you're healthy. So thank you.
I love it. I dig this stuff. I could actually talk about this for 5 hours straight. And
I think we probably both could. But everybody else would probably say, oh, all right, enough of those two, right? We do have a couple more things that we should talk about. I know that you had wanted to offer the listeners a couple gifts, so I'd like to give you the opportunity to share what those are.
Yeah, so 2 things. So I put together an optimal wellness kit, which encompasses 18 easy ways to age backwards. I'm 41 and I feel so much younger than I did in my 30s. It's amazing. And so I just feel like I'm aging backwards. So I want to share my tips on that with everyone else. And then you get a meditation audio for relaxation and peace. And you'll get my regular newsletter tips. So that's the optimal wellness package. And that's my first gift to you, which is 3 gifts in one. The second gift is my video training series. And what I did is I took a poll of everyone who follows me, and I said, what are your biggest health issues? Because I want to address those. And the response came back that weight management and weight loss was number 1. The second was energy, how to have enough of it, and sleep. And obviously those 2 are tied in together. And then the third topic is emotional eating, cravings, and body image. So there's 3 different videos, and those are the topics we discuss. And I know from hearing from people that it's been really instrumental for them.
Excellent. And we'll definitely have those below the replay when we send that out to everybody. Wonderful. Is there anything you'd like to leave our viewers with, kind of as a wrap up?
Yeah, thank you. I just want to go back to the idea that no matter where you are with your health, there's always hope, and there's always a way to make tweaks to make it better and to really have the life that you want. I really encourage people to not settle for feeling poorly every day. Accept yourself and love yourself through it, but also know that there's ways to have the health you want and do the things that you want and not have to live a compromised life like I did for years and years. You just don't have to do that. And with the information out there and the support and the availability of products and foods and everything else and all the trends that are happening, you can absolutely have the health and the life of your dreams.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Marcie, so much for joining us today.
You're so welcome. Thank you.
And I also want to just say thanks to all the viewers who joined us today and who are joining us along this journey. That's going to take another at least 10 days, maybe a little bit more. We'll see. I'm your host, Sarah Olson. I'm looking forward to seeing you back day after day. And feel free to share any questions, concerns, comments, or any kind of comments with us here at Health Warrior Wellness. Thank you.